you're probably thinking, what on earth is a Rosti? A Rosti is a little bit, it's actually a dish that you get in Switzerland, and they have potato Rosti a lot out there, and they eat it a bit like our bangers and mash. They eat it with sausages, with their German sort of influenced sausages, and it's basically like a big potato pancake. And we're going to use sweet potato. So, how do you make a Rosti? Well, you can make a Rosti, but you know already what I'm going to say. You make several Rostis and you put one in the freezer. You know that, don't you? Or you put it in the fridge. You knew I was going to say that, because that's exactly what you do. You don't go to all the trouble of making one Rosti. You don't do that. Nobody does that. If you're cooking, you don't do that. You do. Cooking and trying to find time to do things is hard enough without doing it twice. So think ahead. Try to use your pasta in different ways. Try to use your vegetables in different ways. You prepare this, prepare several, okay? Keep them in the fridge or keep them in the freezer. It's just kind of a way of getting your head around it, and it speeds things up so much. Right, if you have not used sweet potato before, don't know how many of you have or haven't. By the way, you have to get yourself one of these peelers. They are so easy. If you haven't got one, get a really easy peeler. Very important for a PKU diet, because you're peeling vegetables all the time. Get yourself an easy peeler. Don't get something that's hard. If your knives are not sharp, or your peeler's hard to use, then you must make sure that you've got the right tools, because again it does make quite a big difference. So you peel your sweet potato. They come in all different shapes and sizes. I'm just going to use part of it. I'm not going to do what I told you today, because obviously we'll be here for ages. I'm just going to make one to show you. I'm going to grate it. Okay, you can see it's a root vegetable. So I'm using sweet potato. What else could I use that's like this? What else could I use that's like this, that grates? Come on, talk to me. So, parsnip would be great, yeah, parsnip, swede, carrot, anything you can grate, okay? You could even have a bit of onion, and you'll see why that might be significant in a minute. So although I'm doing this with sweet potato, use the information that I'm giving you to think, oh, what else do I like that I could use? Obviously, you could have some ordinary potato as well, but you have to think about your exchanges there. But you could maybe have a mixture. Of things. I'm going to use some apple. I think I'll use the red one this time, because we used the green one before. So a little bit of apple. Not going to bother taking the skin off. Okay, not going to bother taking the skin off. It's going to be grated. We won't even know. So grate the apple. Sort of equal quantities of whatever we've got. You could have, 3 different flavours, but you just get equal quantities, and then you could start to experiment and see what you thought you would like to try next. Right, what do I need to do next? I need to add a little bit of salt and pepper to this. Okay, a little bit of salt and pepper. And I'm going to add some onion. Okay, now again, think about onion, because when people say onion, they just think onion. I've already showed you the red onion, yes, your ordinary onion, spring onion, or chives. All of those are really, really good, and also leeks, okay, because those would also provide an onion-style flavour. I'm going to add a little bit of spring onion. That looks a little bit like it's struggling from being in this very hot classroom. That's it, so those look okay now. And I'm just going to slice those up very finely. So there's, as much onion as you enjoy. Now, not only is this onion a sweeter flavour than conventional onion, as you can see, it's got a green colour. So I would say to you, try to use these because they also add colour to things that you're cooking with. They're fantastic in stir fries, really, really good in stir fries. You probably know that from Chinese cooking. They use spring onion a lot, not just for the flavour, but because of the colour. Okay, rather than it being just pure white, and it's more interesting. So how a Rosti, you're all thinking, so am I at this moment. I'm going to add some of the low protein flour. Okay, we'll move that to one side because I'm going to use that in a second. Oops, a little bit of onion. So I'm going to use some of the low protein flour. Now there's two types available to you, the Juvella or the low profin, whichever one you want to use. I'm just going to use some low profin for this. And what I need to do, looking at my Rosti, is I need it to stick together in some way. Yes, I need it to stick together in some way. If I squeeze it, I can feel that it's quite wet. Can you see the moisture on my hand? Yes, but if I can capture that moisture in some way, I can get it to stick together. So what I need to do is add some flour and get it to do just that for me. So it says a couple of tablespoons, but it varies depending on how moist the carrot is. So I'm just going to add a couple of dessert spoons actually, just to stick it together and see if I can get it to stick. Now it's disappeared. I could probably add a little bit more because it's still sticking. We'll see what consistency we want here, just so that it's a bit more like sort of a scone dough really. Looking a little bit more like it, so that when you put your hand in there it's not sticking to your fingers. That's really all you want to do, is to soak up that moisture so that you can hold it. That's really all you're doing, it's nothing more. So in goes my hand, and now it's not sticking to me too much, so in it goes like so, and squeeze it. So we've got a nice, making a good squelching noise. There it is. I'll put that out onto my table. Now obviously I'm going to have to shape this and fry it. Now this would be the point at which you could make several of these, put them in the fridge at this stage, or you could freeze them at this stage as well. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do one of them, and I'm going to just fry it in some sun olive oil, some mixture of sunflower oil and olive oil. And you don't have to buy it like this, but I often just, if I've got half a jar of olive oil, I'll just top it up with sunflower oil, and you can cook and flavour of the olive oil, some of the heat of that you get from your sunflower oil. So there's our Rosti. We'll put a little bit of flour onto our table so that we can shape it up a little bit. Now, you could be quite creative here. You could make balls, you could make sausages if you wanted to, but traditionally a Rosti is just a big, as I said, a very large sort of a pancake. And in Switzerland, as I said, they line up their sausages on top. It just reminded me of bangers and mash. It was just like, oh, Swiss version of bangers and mash. So you make it quite thin because we fry it. Okay. Now that's not difficult. It's really not difficult. If you make these, you could put a piece of greaseproof paper and stack them up and pop them in the fridge or the freezer, and they will freeze brilliantly. They freeze really, really well. But you could do little nugget shapes, and you could just fry them little nugget shapes. That would work. Right, we'll pop that in. Into our frying pan. Well, that one's perhaps not quite hot enough. I'm going to move it onto this one that says rapid. Now again, you could have fried that in your garlic butter if you wanted to, couldn't you? You could have fried that in garlic butter and added a little bit more flavouring if you wanted to. All right, that's nearly ready. So there's our Rosti. It's looking really nice. Okay, it's looking really nice. We'll pop that out onto there. Switch off the rapid one. That's it. And we'll cut that up so that you can all have a little flavour, a taste of that one. I think that might be rather nice.